All right, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls around the world, we're back again. This is our second live stream this week. And believe it or not, we still have three more. Is it three more? Two more. I don't know. This is our second or third. Man, they're just blurring into one another. But we have at least two to three more of these before the week is out, and we're already on Thursday. But today we're going to speak, as you see on the title, some items, some talking points around real estate. We're going to speak about kind of merging the work that you do with life, and really just understanding the importance of being competent in what you do, of being competent, but also understanding how to attach what you have in your hands as a necessity, as a necessary resource or a necessary service to that you may have going on in other aspects of your life, or to that someone you know may have going on in their life. Oftentimes we just go with the flow and do what is societally expected when it comes to how we move within our profession. But when we take alternative, when we take non-traditional routes, we can figure out how to pull in additional streams of income, help people in non-traditional ways that can help us benefit a whole lot more in our future. So without further ado, this gentleman I'm going to bring to you today, he has he has a decent background, but I'm going to let him speak more so to the background. But really, what gravitated me to him was just the authenticity in which he speaks about that which he does, and the competence, and how he shows you what he has in his hands can help benefit certain people based off of the sectors that they serve in. So, with that being said, we can go ahead and bring to you Nolan Sheets. What's good, my guy?
How's it going, man? Thanks for letting me come on here.
Man, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I know after we got off the phone the other day, and I was just looking at your name and the spelling of your name, and it made me think back to how, my homeboys back in the day would call me B Streets, and I would, just to make it a little more flashy, I would put a Z at the end instead of a S. So I said, man, this is kind of a nice little catch up, B Streets and Nolan Sheets. So yeah, man, I feel like there's some sort of camaraderie that was already in place before we even met. So give us a little insight on who is Nolan Sheets. Where are you from? What are some of the things that you do, and kind of what direction are you going in life right now?
Sure. Yeah, it was funny because, like I said, when you said when we got off the phone, we were talking, and your partner is named Nicole. My wife's named Nicole too. So it was just, and they're both in the dental field, or not that, but they're both in the dental field. So I think it was just funny. But yeah, my background is currently the last 11 years I've been doing traditional sales. My family's business in Palatine, Illinois, called Lake Cook Exteriors. We do windows, doors, gutters, and siding, soffits, fascias, and patio doors. We work with big name companies. One's called Symington. It's a $1 billion company, been around for 8 decades nationwide. And then another one called Therma-Tru Doors, same thing, been around for like almost 70 years nationwide. They're both industry leaders. Parents have done it for close to 4 decades through every single thing that you could think of. Before that, like I said, I've been there for 11 years. Before that, I worked in hotels across the country in 5 different Hyatts, a Sheraton, a Hilton, all in upper management, and then up in 2 higher educations for upper management for director positions at Loyola in Chicago, and my old college in Northern Michigan, in the university in the UP of Marquette, Michigan. So when I was in high school, my dad is the oldest of 10. My mom's like the second oldest of 6. Mom went to college for textile chemistry, and dad was the oldest, so he had to figure out what to do. So he was just good at with his hands, traveled across the country doing sales, did gutter install, siding install, stuff like that. Both had different viewpoints of college and higher education. And I don't think anybody really knows 100% what they want to do, especially in high school. But my parents asked me, like, well, what do you like to do? And I think that's a really good basis of any conversation. Because I heard once my old boss told me, like, if you like what you do, then the money will come down the road, but you have to like what you do first. So I thought about it, and I'm like, well, I can do CAD key architectural design. I can do building construction. In high school, we built a house from the ground up. like drywall, duct tape, paint, everything, roofing, and I can do cooking and sewing. So I was like, well, everybody needs a place to eat and sleep. It's kind of never going to go away. So I looked at some cooking schools, and I actually had a decent advisor. This is my senior year too. I didn't know what I wanted to apply for or where I wanted to go. And we saw some schools around the state in Illinois. And then my advisor was, why don't you look at Northern Michigan? It was like 6 hours away. If you like snow, it's a place to be because they get 300 inches a year. But if you're not for snow, that's not what you want. But went up there with my mom and I looked at it, and like it's one of those places, it just fit for me. I liked it. I liked the outdoor stuff. I'm not a big city person, so I never liked, I didn't want to live in the city when I worked in the city. But like working in hotels and restaurants, you just acknowledge the fact that my departments were conventions and hotels. So we did I've probably done over like 4,000 events, if not more, in my career. The biggest event I remember was like 3,600 kosher meals in one meeting. That was a fun day, amongst other events going on at the same hotel at the Hyatt off Wacker in Chicago. And like just doing huge events, just small events, but like just accepting, like way back when my first boss says, like, if you like this business, expect no weekends, expect no holidays, expect no birthdays, and you're going to love it. Or if you don't like it now, then just get out. And I've kind of taken that into a lot of different things I've done. And it kind of gives you tunnel vision. Like your last guest yesterday was excellent with her background of being in the military and then being in corporate, because you kind of have to have that mental mindset. It's got to be like, to a point, not cast iron, but you have to know what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So when I learned those things, I was 30 and I left food service because I was just tired of it. It just got to the point where I was just done. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was a director at 30 at Loyola downtown. And I was like, what else would I want to do? And I got out, and then my parents asked, like, do you want to learn our business? So one day when we want to walk away, you can run it and grow it. I'm like, okay. My biggest thing was like, I get an hour lunch break and nobody's asking me about gluten-free pizza. Like, because in food service for management, you have no break. It doesn't happen. You're on the call all day long. And you're doing like 12-hour days. So I got an 8-hour day from 12. I lived 5 minutes from my shop. I was like, this is awesome. But like, it was a sales job, which I never done before. So I had to learn that skill set. And I learned a long time ago to be more personable than salesy and lead with examples and like scenarios and stories instead of like, and always advocate the product or the service, but they're going to buy from you because they like you. Not the sales point of the price is always going to be in that conversation, but it's like Wolf of Wall Street, sell me this pen, like sell me the pen. It's a thing. With a small business owner, they go with you because they like you. And we have to go against like Home Depot's, Anderson Windows, big box stores, and we do okay. But you're always up against them, but they work with you because they like you. You give them more value. You're more beneficial. You take your time. You want to be more thorough because that sale helps you directly, more so than a big company. So when I learned that, sales is like anything else, it's sales. But if you can help somebody understand why you do something not better, but just more efficient, I think even if you don't get that sale, you still give them value. And we have a thought process with Lake Cook where we have long-term thinking. And one of them is like, I'll follow up with people for years until they say no on improvements. But isn't that the goal, to give better value? And if somebody says no, like I'll be 43 this year. So people younger than me, if they get one no, they just shut down. They're like, I'm not doing a sale anymore. I don't care. Like, this is too hard. Like, I've had people I've called for years just doing follow-ups, like soft follow-ups, like, how's it going? How you doing? And just try to be relatable, because they'll be like, wow, you just keep following up. I'm like, well, that's part of the deal. But that's also part of life. Like, if you want something, like, you have to explain why you want to get back up and do that thing again. Because you got to go in on a bad day the same as a good day. If you're any kind of management or leadership, like, that's huge because your energy affects the whole team. So if you're down and that team's down, or you're up and the team's up, you really play a huge part. So like I've always taken those kind of things into the conversation when I do stuff, and I don't try to do things like halfway. I will give it my all, and like it works or it doesn't, but you got to give yourself room to breathe. And that's what I learned in hotels. Like if you don't do that, then you're just going to be drowning all day long.
Yeah, and there's a few things that I want to hit on that you've spoken to, and it's just so important to understand so many of these things when it comes to life, when it comes to work, when it comes to um, finding balance, when it comes to understanding the necessity of being off balance on purpose sometimes. So just to kind of take it back, and I know the first time we got on the phone, we just were so captivated in how we understand the necessity of thinking a certain way in business that we didn't touch a whole lot on our background. Some of the things that we had done previously, but I actually, when I moved to Miami in 2012, I did valet parking at one of the nicest and busiest hotels, the Western Colonnade in Coral Gables. Coral Gables is like the wealthy Cuban community in Miami. So we had events all the time, and when you mentioned the working on weekends and holidays, like you don't expect to get those days off. So it's either, like you said, you love it or you hate it. Um, at the time, it was a necessity for me, because we had only been living there in Miami for a little while, and we needed to make sure that we were making ends meet. So I had to get the money, and the money was good.
It's good money.
Specifically, yeah. And when it comes to valet parking at a really high end hotel, you can make a. Put it this way: I had a full time job working in child welfare, foster care support specialist, foster parent support specialist. I had a full time job working in that field, and then on the weekends I did valet parking, just Saturday and Sunday, or just sometimes Friday, Saturday. I would typically make more in a weekend doing
Mhm.
valet parking than I made in a full paycheck for my other job. So
Yeah, people don't get that, but you're hustling. Like it's not like
exactly.
you're not like just oh okay they're coming. Like no, you're on the ball because that one person is going to come back because of how you treated them, and they could be
Hmm.
driving an Aston Martin, they could be an investor, and they are having a good time because the moment they see you, that's how you set their feelings
Set the
for that
tone.
rest of that hotel.
Exactly. That's so true. So that kind of makes me kind of lean into the next point that I was going to mention as far as being personable instead of trying to, or instead of coming across salesy. That's one of the reasons why obviously you and I clicked. That's one of the reasons why you and I even have met, period, because in that networking group that group that I use for networking that we met in, I am not a salesy person in there. I come in, I ask questions to trigger people's engagement, and then I give feedback and constant feedback within that specific post. And then I figure out, okay, who is someone I want to connect with, who is someone I would love to hop on the phone with and see if we can do business in one aspect or another, or at the bare minimum, we can connect and just be there for one another as we grow through business. And you were one of those individuals. You never came across salesy to me, and I aim not to be, not to do the same with you. And just taking that even further, until you mentioning how you just follow up and follow up and follow up. No isn't no for you, and people in, especially individuals who, and this is just me being me. We got people who are in the whole home based business space, specifically working under a network marketing company, MLM, or something along those lines, and they automatically call themselves an entrepreneur. Whereas at the end of the day, if that company shuts down, your cash flow is gone. So you are not really in control until you actually have your own brand under your own business, so on and so forth. You really aren't a full entrepreneur. But I say that to say, so many people in that space who haven't really gone through the ropes of knowing, okay, I have this registered with the state. My name is on the title of this business. So I have to go through this, that, and the third. And I don't just sit back and wait for a 1099. There's a whole lot more investment that you make in your business and the people that you come across. So you get to a point where you should get to a point, at least, where you really understand I can't just give up on every person that says no. So you have to understand that no isn't necessarily absolute. Most of the time, it's just no right now.
Mhm.
No, because I don't know you well enough. No, because I don't know how much I like you. No,
Mhm.
because I'm not sure how much I trust what you're bringing to me. Or just no, because I'm just not in the stage of my life where I need what you have to offer. So when you continuously follow up and follow up and follow up and do so in a personable way, not in this pushy way, slowly but surely you get to where that person is likely to, if they don't have the need for your service, they're likely to point you out to another person
Yeah.
because you're steadily in their face, in their ear, so to say, that whenever they think about the service or product that you have to offer, whenever they think about that, you'll be the first person that they think about. It's kind of like, you're, and this is how this is this is comes to my mind a lot because I'm, well, before COVID I was on the road traveling all the time. So I'd be on an interstate and you just see a billboard and another billboard. It's like, didn't I just see that same billboard a couple miles back talking about this sandwich they have at McDonald's? And then you see another one, and you're not hungry at the time, but as soon as that hunger kicks in, that billboard kicks
Yeah.
into your mind. So you have to always be ready and willing to put yourself out there and continue to follow up with those individuals who in the past have at least shown interest or some sort of relation to what it is that you have to offer. So you mentioned some of the areas that you're operating in. For how long would you say, you're 43, you mentioned, at what stage would you say you really feel like you kind of got the groove, you kind of fell into who you are as a professional that you are right now, able to competently, deliver what it is that you have to offer, without having that, timid approach, I guess I'd say.
Yeah, I think, and it's, if you guys check out my Facebook page, you'll see there's a picture I put on there. It's got an iceberg, and I think that's really a good image because, as people say, I use this a lot, and you can feel free to use this same if you're in sales or talking to somebody. What I say is, like, normally somebody who's pretty good at what they do, they've done it for 10,000 hours, and people don't realize that. Like, I worked in hotels from 15 to 30, and I've been in my parents' business from 32 to now. So it's like two sets of 10 years plus. And you're never going to know 100% of everything, but you start to build that confidence up. Like, I remember the first time I sold some windows to a client of mine. It was like a $14,000 job. I was freaking out because, like, oh, geez,
Yeah.
it's the biggest one I've done. And we don't do that often, but like, there's been some jobs in the last couple of years that are like 30, 40,000, $50,000 jobs of windows. So it's like the initial, you have to like build up your tolerance to be able to have those conversations with that kind of client. Because like you said, not everybody needs X, but you're there to fill a need, not a want. Because at that point, the need and want is a different conversation. I'm there to facilitate a need to help a person out, to help them understand why we do a good job. And we might not fit everybody, which is fine. But I know that I heard a trainer say once, if a person goes to Home Depot to look for windows or doors, you might see a kid that last week was at college throwing goldfish down his throat at a frat party. And they might find you and be like, well, your price is more than Home Depot was. Like, what's the difference? Like, why is it price? I'm like, well, price is one part, but we've been here for almost 4 decades. We have a decade labor warranty on the work we do for the stuff I install. We measure to the eighth of an inch. Everything's built to your size. We know the installers. We work with the towns. We do all the permits, the inspections, all the stuff you don't want to do, we do. And they're like, oh, okay. Because a homeowner doesn't know, like anything else, what they don't know. There's a lot of back end stuff that we all do as professionals that the clients never see that makes us pull our hair out. As you can see, I'm losing it already. So,
I
but
think I beat you to it.
there you go, Zach. He's like, I got more hair off medicine than hair. But it's just kind of the part of the deal. Like we want to make it simple. Now, don't get me wrong. When a client's ready to go, I'm on that ball because as hot as the iron is, tomorrow could not be there. So when you find somebody who's really curious about what you're doing, you've got to give them the right information. And that also requires how much do you want to know? How much do you want me to pour into you with whatever space you're in? And that takes feeling out the person.
Yeah.
So that's a hard thing to do, but that's just learning. And like you can have every book. A teacher told me once, is like as soon as that book is printed, it's out of date, which is has some truth to it. But you have to blend your life experiences with your professional experience with what you've learned and been taught
Hmm.
to kind of level them out and know how to bring those parts into the conversation at the right point. And a good trick is try to make the client laugh. If you can make them
Facts.
smile, it'll be a little easier in the conversation because there'll be some hard times in that thing, but you got to make them laugh a little bit to take the tension down. If you can do that, you'll be okay with whatever you can do.
Yeah, and that's so real. I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's one of the things. I've never claimed to be a comedian or anything, but I always aim to add some sort of comedic
Mhm.
relief into the conversation because lots of the things, or specifically the areas that I work in, can be very high tension, can be very intense to where people need to have some sort of release where they don't feel so uptight, and that really pours into the whole know and like factor. And when you can get that person to liking you, this person, he makes my day a whole lot better when I'm stressing out because I haven't made any money and business is going down the dumps. It feels like this guy makes me feel better about myself. So that's definitely a necessity. There was something I was meaning to mention, but it's left me. So when it comes to so many of the different areas that you have a background in, that you work in, it seems like real estate has always been like a topic around what you do. Now, me myself, I really didn't get into the real estate space until a few years back. But I started to understand the necessity of creating some sort of income flows connected to real estate quite a while back. Because if you look at some of the most wealthy people around the country, at least, or even the world, real estate has created lots of that wealth. And we'll go a little bit deeper into that here in a bit. But before we go down that road, I kind of want to let's just slow down a bit and kind of lean more into some of the things that that you and I spoke about before we got on today, and really understanding that balance when it comes to doing what you do for a living, doing the work that you do, but at the same time making sure that you're there for your family, that you're there for those who care about you. One of the things that lots of people don't understand about entrepreneurship, they see the glitz and the glam, quote unquote. They see the freedom. They see the ability to move here and there and do what you want, when you want, how you want. But they don't see what it takes behind the scenes to create that life. Now, some people have something that was ready made or something that kind of is handed down to them, and it's easier for them to jump into that flow. And then some people have to start just from scratch. They're the first person in their generations to jump into the entrepreneurship space, and it's just a different route. So when it comes to you being a family man, what has working for yourself and being present, like what does that look like, and what are some talking points, what are some some insights that you can share with people on being able to manage that space, the communication with your partner, the communication with your kids, so on and so forth.
Sure. Well, it's always a fluid conversation because there's always going to be things that you need to do until you're at a good spot. Because you should always know your number, what you're trying to aim for. Because if you know the number, you can work the goal backwards. That's how I learned in hotels. If you had the event, you can work the time backwards to prep for the event, to get everything ready to go, to double check it, so you know your systems are in place. I try to take that part into like life in general, and that can happen or can't sometimes. It's just how it goes. Life does what it does. You can only plan for so much, but life's still going to do what it wants to do. You got to kind of roll with the cards it gives you at the time, and hedge your bets and play for a better hand and trade
Hmm.
in certain things. So, like you said, when you're starting out with doing anything, you don't have the best cards in front of you. Like 90% of the time, you've got like, how much can I adjust? And that's the thing. You have to be able to really pivot. Like your guest yesterday, where she was in the service and then worked in corporate, you have to know how much you can kind of play on your team and play to put things off, and then play with certain things you don't want to compromise. There's always boundaries of that. I'm always trying to get better on communication. It's one thing I need to do more and more for sure. But the challenge also is the fact, like, when you start out, you should let people know that it's going to be hard. But I tell people all the time, like, you have two choices when you wake up in the morning. One, you get up and you're going to like what you do, and it's hard. Two, you're going to get up and you're going to not like what you do, and it's hard. You pick the level of hard you want in your life, because at the end of the day, you should be happy with what you've been doing. Even if it's hard, even if it's a bad day and you're having a bad day at work, you're having a challenge with the wife and the kids, and you missed the recital, you were late. But you should at least be able to reflect at the end of the day by saying, I'd much rather be having this hard with this person, with this career, with this path, instead of not. Because
Hmm.
that's what I did. When I was 30, I was working by myself. I was a director. I lived on my own. And I'm okay with being okay. I moved across the country by myself. I had to make friends. I'm okay with that. But you also have to open your space up and let people in, because it doesn't matter if you have everything if you can't share with anybody. Like, that's a big thing. And health is real wealth. So, to your point, it's always a fluid conversation. And until you're at a point when you know that number's there, it's not going to be 100% on every single plate. There are things that will get missed. There are things that will be challenges. There are things that will be frustrating. But you also have to reassure your partner or your team, I believe in you. I believe in us. Give me some time. Here's some improvement we've done. You need to celebrate the small wins. Because if you don't have the small
Hmm.
wins and a big win shows up, you won't even know how to accept the big win. You got to accept the wins, because a small win is very important to help you build the confidence to a bigger win. So any kind of conversation you can have with your spouse or your husband or your wife or your family, like, you got to let them know why you're doing it. Because when I do what I do, if I work 3 months to get a job and somebody comes and undercuts me for $1,000 and I can't come back, that's 3 months I anticipated getting that sale for like a mortgage or tuition or food or a car loan.
Hmm.
That's devastating if that doesn't come through and you don't have enough leads coming in. Like, every lead counts. So it's going to be hard. And I'm glad I found my wife when I was 32, and I've enjoyed every day of it. It's still challenging, which is fine, because I'd rather have it be hard with her than hard by myself.
Yeah, and that's key. What you said, it's life is going to be hard in one aspect or another. So you choose your hard. You can choose
Mm-hmm.
the hard that you got someone domineering over you, looking over your shoulder, asking why isn't this done, why isn't that done, but you have this fixed time that you go in, and then you have the fixed time that you go home. So it seems kind of easy as it pertains to the family life, but you're stressed out when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the work life. Or you can choose the hardware. You're looking over your own shoulder, and you're having that conversation in your own head, but it's still in your control. Whereas, go too many days not hitting certain quotas working for someone else, and you can be on a chop block.
Yeah.
Whereas you go too many days without hitting certain quotas for yourself, you apply the pressure to yourself. You have the conversation with those around you. Hey, look, I got to put a little more time in doing this so that we can hit these numbers. So he's really choosing your hard. And as it pertains to hitting numbers, and this is for people in the entrepreneurship space, regardless of what type of business you do, is understanding what is that number. Like, what is the number that you have to hit in order to take care of all of your bills and have a little extra to do whatever you need to do with it. Oftentimes people have no number in mind. They're just kind of going with the flow. And when you don't have a target, you're kind of just everywhere. It's kind of like hopping on an airplane and you don't know what the destination is, and you're just gonna kind of fly until you hit something. So you want to know what's the end point, what is the destination before you even, every week, every day, every month, before you even go in, what is that end number? Because when you know what that end number is, it's easier to figure out what the day-to-day activity needs to be in order to hit that end number. I have a handful of clients that I'm working with where, and sometimes it can be frustrating because they just don't get it, but I let them know, look, I need your number. Like, what do you need to hit for this to actually be worth it, to make sense for
Mhm.
you? You're already in this space. You're saying that you want to stay focused on this product, this service, working this business, but do you really know what you need to do to make it work? And until you know that number, you don't really know what you need to do, because that number, and I use an equation, and this equation was, I mean, it's pretty simple, but I started using it while working with my partner, a gentleman out of New York. X times Y equals Z. Whereas Z is your number. Z is whatever figure you need to hit to get to or take care of, your expenses, have that extra left over. And then Y we'll come back to later, but X is your products and the price points of all those products and or services. So when you know what your ultimate number is, how much you need to earn, and then you know how much each of your prices are, all you need to know then, okay, for why, I just need to know how many people I need to get to these products or services. And then that's when the constantly, as we mentioned earlier, the networking, the following up, the intensity of it, the consistency of it, slowly but surely, after a couple of weeks, after a couple of months, you should be able to look back and say, okay, the first week of January, I reached out to 50 people. Only 40 actually engaged in the conversation. Only 20 of those actually seemed interested in what I have to offer. 10 of those actually replied whenever I reached out the second time. Five of those took advantage,
Mhm.
or five of those verbally committed, but only three of those actually fell through or came through. So, okay, out of 50 people, on average, let's say you did that and that number was similar over the first 3 weeks of the month. Okay, on average, I'm getting this amount of people based off of this amount of initial reach outs. So it's all about, okay, I got to hit this number of
Mhm.
people to get to this number of sales or commitments to eventually hit that goal. So it gives you that number to reach out for, plug it into your equation, and you kind of know what type of activity you need to do. And at the same time, you need to know how aggressive you need to be, professionally aggressive, when it comes to the consistency in your follow ups and not allowing a no to be no. Because right now, if I look at all of the clients that I'm working with right now, just off the top of my mind, I want to say at least half, if not more than half of them, the initial time that we spoke about the services that I'm providing to them, the initial time, it was a no. Like, they weren't ready. But I didn't feel any negative way about them or act any negative way towards them to to push them off and scare them from coming back. So you really want to make sure you keep that, that type of decorum, so to say, when it comes to communicating with those who have told you no in the past. So, in stating all of that and kind of just transitioning it into specifically what you do, so there is a, and I'll let you give the specifics, more of the specifics at least, when it comes to the company that you work with, that you see the benefit and other aspects of your professional work. So there was a gentleman. I mentioned earlier, Chris Holder that I work with out of New York. He actually was with the company that you're with
Oh,
some years back, about a decade and a half ago, and he made it to the top of the company. Was very successful. Things have obviously changed since then with the company, and there's more services that you guys offer. But whenever I heard that you were with that company and a handful of other people that I've connected with throughout the last few months, I understood, okay, this is a quality company. They have quality services because I've seen the results that they can bring to people's lives. So, kind of speak to the company that you're working with, and give me the. I don't know if you know. I'm pretty sure you do. What are the actual words for ACN? So,
yeah.
give us a little insight on who you're working with and how it's benefiting everything else that you do.
Sure. The acronym is actually American Communication Network, ACN.
Got it.
And that's kind of how it is. It started 32 years ago, I want to say, right now. The biggest thing I saw, it was funny because how I got into it, I work full time with, like I said, my parents' business, and I used to set a hotel space up. So I see e-commerce people come in all the time, and I was never like, I'm going to do this because I wasn't in the mindset. I was like, I had a good salary job. I was like, okay, I'll do this, but I was like, I also knew that like if you don't have a job, you don't get paid. So I was like, okay, so you trade your time for money. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's already there. And hotels, I accepted like, here's a 12 or 14-hour day. It's what it is. So I was like, that's fine. But when I got out of hotels and I met my wife when I was 32, she was always in the dental field and she was always doing a lot of things. And I was like, well, I want to talk to you. I find you attractive and let's have a conversation. She said, well, I'm just too busy. I'm like, that's fine. And she said, well, I found a company that that can help me. I'm like, okay, like what do they do? And I was like, well, one of the services is energy. And I'm like, all right. So it's like a door knocker. He's like, no, not at all. Because it's just word of mouth. I'm like, that's interesting. Because my parents' business is all word of mouth. We're 60% of our business is word of mouth.
Hmm.
So, well, that's interesting. Like, what do you do? It's like, well, when you find a service by showing the benefits and the person says, yes, I'll support the cause or support you, they pay the same thing, that same utility in that state, and you get a commission every month. They pay the utility for commercial and residential. So I was like, wait. So I can get paid every month on the same stuff I do anyways with no overhead. And I run it from a laptop or a phone and I learn how to do it. And I have all these clients, and our weather sucks here in Illinois. And 2 months out of the year, you can't do any installs. It was -1 yesterday. We can't work. So I was like, well, that's interesting because having a growing family, I always need an extra source coming in because in contracting, when I have my guys who I work with, the contractors, if they hurt themselves, God forbid, they can't install. So you
Hmm.
can sell all the doors you want, but if you don't have an installer, you can't put them in. So I needed something that would not physically have to take away from part of my industry or part of my company, but still have the income coming in. So when I learned about this, I was like, that's interesting. And I started back in 2016, really part time, because one, we had a horrible snowstorm here back then. And it was the first year working with Lake Cook. And then all the work we had for our gutter division with 2 crews that we owned the trucks, they were our employees. There was tons of snow and it shut everything down for like 3 weeks. And then the snow came away and both crews left with all this work on the table. We're talking like 5 figures of work on the table, like ready to go for 4 weeks straight. They both just up and left.
Mm.
What would that do to a business right now if you had all this work ready to go and you're ready and your crews just up and leave, or your employees quit, or they walk away and you're a small business owner? You would either
It'll fall.
pivot or fold, correct? So we pivoted, we got rid of the trucks, we found good crews, and some of the work didn't come through. We gave them back the money, which was fine, but the majority of stuff stayed with us because we just had better value. A couple years go by, same thing. My dad's walking a job, he's doing siding, he slips and he busts his knee. He's of the age of 62, so of the age of needing a new knee, cartilage, whatever else age. Same thing. He was laid up for 3 months, got a new knee. He sold half of our work for siding. So what happens if one person in your small business sells half of your work and they can't work for 3 months? Right now, it's different, but back then, before Zoom and technology and older traditional businesses, they might fold. So I needed something that wouldn't allow me to not rely on, but just work with staff, but it just worked anyways. So when I saw this, it made sense to me in my brain. And I did it back then before COVID, and I had like really no success because you had to go meet people, network, but then you're working full time and you got a growing family. And so like I don't have the moment to really sit down and iron it out the right way. And then COVID happens and I stopped doing it before COVID, during COVID happened, because it was all in person stuff. You had to go meet people, couldn't do it. And that was in the time where now look at our world, where back then, before COVID, I was like, you can't make money not meeting people. You can't do Zooms all day long. You can't
Hmm.
run a professional business. That's impossible. You can't do that. COVID happens. What happens? Stay home. Everybody work from Zoom.
Yep.
And it worked. It took some ironing out, but it worked. So now, back in 2022, late 2022, I started back up again, and it's worked very well because I everybody sees me doing it for this time, but they're like, "What did you do here?" I'm like, "I have like 9 years of experience combined, but you only see the last 2.5 years, the iceberg. You only see this part. Everything else down here is like this doesn't work. It's not going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody believes in you." So, but you have to do something more. Like there's that show out on Paramount Plus called Landman. There's an interesting part where at the end of the series, one of the characters says, "This is what I want to do," and he's talking to his girlfriend, and she's like, "I believe in you." He's like, "I can do this myself, but I needed something else to push me to make it work."
Mm.
So you can have all the dreams you want, but you need to have a catalyst to make something change in your brain and understand, like, as hard as it's going to be, if you don't do it, evaluate the worst case scenario and avoid that scenario by bringing more whatever you need in. Like you said, the why. So if you know your number, work it backwards. All you got to do is find the right people and do professional networking. Go on some stuff, be professional at it, treat it like a business because it'll pay you like a business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's been doing now. It's been paying like a business. And I'm nowhere near the point of the number I need, but I'm well on track from where I never thought it would be back when I started. Because I'm like, how could I ever get there? At that time, I was 32. I'm 43, like just about. So you got to give yourself some space. You got to give yourself some
Yeah.
breathing room.
And this is why we connected. What you just stated, how you made sense of why partnering with this company made sense for you. So many people, when it comes to these direct sales companies, they jump on the trend. They jump on the and this is like my pet peeve. You see this post, join my team. We have the top this, the top that. We are the cutting edge technology. We're backed by this. This doctor is going to be doing a present. I don't care about all that. None of that makes sense to me. None of that makes sense for me to get involved with based off of what I do, what is my focus, what actually makes sense to complement what I do. That's what I want to be involved in. Well, it's like I'm frozen. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you. I can still hear you. Yeah.
And get
Your camera's taking a union break.
hold up.
No, it's just technology is always in. There you go. Oh,
Hmm.
coming back on. Yeah, but like you said, it's got to align with what you want yourself. Because I there's that old saying, you can't make a horse drink water. It doesn't
Okay,
work.
yeah. So let me. I might have to refresh really quickly. Give me
Okay,
just a second.
sure. So like in the meantime,
And
like,
I can't even hear you, Nolan. I see in the
okay, I
chat
can
that
hear
they can
you.
hear me. Let me refresh
I can hear
and
you.
maybe it'll fix our issue. I had an alert to go off.
Oh, you got a union computer. This person wants to work.
Technology, technology. Yeah, I see your comment, Sue. So
Mhm.
while I'm frozen,
Yeah,
I want to at least you, Nolan, since people can still hear and see you.
yeah.
What I want you to kind of share is what have some of the things that you've seen, some of the things that you've experienced,
Mhm.
what have some of those look like as far as you realizing, okay, this company ACN that I've connected myself with, um, what have what has that internal dialogue been when it comes to you making the decision on partnering with ACN, and how have you seen it be not only for yourself and your day-to-day work, but how have you seen yourself be able to help other individuals that are in the real estate space and the
Mhm.
investor space, whatever spaces you've seen it to be beneficial for? What has that looked like when it comes to working with other individuals with you being connected to ACN?
Yeah, sure. So one aspect of it with that has been very interesting because it has really very low overhead. Traditional business owners have a lot of overhead, and that's just kind of how part of the conversation goes. This overhead is a cell phone bill, a laptop, a tablet, Wi-Fi connection, and I run my store for a very nominal price every month. So overall for that, and I have no staff, I have no payroll, I have no inventory. You already have things that you do anyways that you're going to do anyways forever. That was the thing. Like everybody has what they want to do, but this stuff you can't live without. Like it's a
Hmm.
necessity. There are other options for the same thing, but in Illinois, you have ComEd. That's it. There's nothing else for energy. So it's like you pick what you want to work with. So like, well, that's interesting. But in the real estate side, for agents, it's like a concierge service with a white glove because I have sales rep for the company Vivint, who is home automation. I don't do anything besides connect them like we connected, professionally introduce them to the rep I did on my home, and he asks them the questions and he helps sign them up, and then I get a commission. I have ADP does the same thing. I have healthcare services does the same thing. I have a few other services that do the same thing, and other than that, I have them in the portal. So I help a person just walk through the portal like you're ordering something from Amazon, which everybody does, including 5-year-olds. You have to turn off your Amazon link because the 5-year-old can do it faster than you can. Like, why did I get 75 boxes here? Oh, okay. I want more SpongeBob. Like, what happened here? But all it is a portal, which all we're that's our society now. It's all portal based. Like everything we do to a point is online. You'll go online to get a wire for a cord faster before you go to Best Buy because the cord will
True.
be here maybe the same day. Like that cord might not show up at Best Buy. So I just said it made sense to me to do what I wanted to do. But with the real estate people, when they close on a home, you have to set the services up anyways. So you have a white glove service and a portal that just sets all the services up. But for funding purposes and investors, it works very differently because you can use these stores as LLCs and S corps, and you can do a few different things that are in headspace of large figure businesses when you're helped to promote people to want to better themselves. Hence, the definition of hotel people are servant leaders. You have to understand what the person's needs are. Your goals and their goals have to align by not your own individual goals, but the goals that you're bridging to show people how to do it. And you have to explain to them, like, I need to know what your goals are. And a lot of people don't even get that question ever. They just get programmed, they get out of school, they go to get a job, and they just work. And that's a lot of the people in the world. But there are people that after a certain point, they want to develop their own goals. They want
Hmm.
a home for themselves. They want a car for themselves. They want a trip. They want a family. So you have to work the conversation backwards. You have to show them that you're there to support them through the good days and bad. But when you work with people, it's a different thing because a person is a person, but the person who owns a business sees a larger overhead expense and they're always looking for more profit and a smart, positive way with better value and a better return on results with minimum effort until they see a result and then they're going to go gun ho. So you have to understand as a business owner, traditionally, what makes more sense if you've been in business for a decade and your rent is $3,000 a month versus you've been paying every month. This is $25, but this is such a different animal here. It seems scary. And I understand that. My side is I'm always impressed when people want to open a business and you need, like McDonald's, you have to have like what, $1 million in the bank before you can even get in the conversation.
It's a
A
high barrier.
Yeah, like there's huge overhead on franchises for the good chunk of them. And what if it doesn't work? And you can't just make money back on one franchise. You need to have at least two or three. So you have to have the staff, you have to have all the infrastructure. You're going to give yourself all the time to devote to that. So the analogy we use is like if you open a store on the team and it costs you X versus doing a franchise, but you're not at your franchise. If you own a Subway and you're not eating Subway or promoting Subway, then why'd you open a Subway franchise? That's how you should look at this. And people don't see it like that because it's such a minuscule investment. They're like, it
Mhm.
didn't work, whatever. But I wanted something that had 95% less stress. And I was like, this made sense to me. Doesn't make sense for everybody. But when I know I'm really time broke on certain days and I'm really screwed by the weather, and then you have building departments, you have price increases, you have labor issues, a guy could hurt himself, product could come missing. All those things I don't have to deal with because they're already paying the same thing. So with investors, they see it as like a very safe investment. When I went to the bank the other week, they're like, we would much rather invest loans on businesses like this just for a few reasons. One is because it's predictable. The income stream and the revenue is there. The numbers are there. Your overhead is super low and you aren't really at risk of being jeopardized because it costs very nominal to run. It's a website. So you just refer people. So when the bank is saying that, they're like, we love traditional business owners, but for the first couple of years, it's really hard if they ask for a loan because they're inconsistent. And that's nothing against them. That's just the nature of that business. This is very small and so it's like a very safe investment and you just put some work to it. But if you meet people who have networks or emails or contacts and they want to retire, I teach them how they can walk away but not be financially jeopardized out of their own network very conservatively. Because not everybody needs a lot. If you've been working for 30 years, hopefully you have some money set aside in investments. But if you don't, this is just another way to help free up some income that's already in your network to help with the charity or your cause. And we just teach you how to do it. And it takes some time, but like if you can teach a business owner how to make an extra X every single month, why would they say no? Because that adds into a whole year of an annual extra revenue. So their
Yeah,
business is better.
that's so real. And for those, and we're gonna have to chop that
Yeah.
piece and like use that and some content because um and I wrote this down. Needs focus. You focus on where people's needs are. You focus
Mhm.
on what they currently do, where there's a need there that you can serve, and then ultimately looking at their specific need, getting their specific numbers, and showing them how, based off of their numbers, based off of what they can bring and plug into this system, you can show them, okay, this is what your potential returns can be. So let's kind of transition into that stage,
Yeah.
and I can give you I can give you some numbers just based off of some of the areas that I operate in. So I
Sure.
kind of give you the areas first, and then you can ask me whatever questions you need to ask. So
Okay.
let's say you come to someone like myself. I have a I have a property that I'm wanting to get set up. I'm wanting to get it set up to rent out,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I have a network of, we'll just use my following here on Facebook. I have a network of like 4.8 thousand people
Mhm.
that get access to my information on a monthly basis. Like, how could someone like me benefit from what you have to offer based off of them potentially contributing towards my endeavors, them potentially taking advantage of some of the things that I'm putting in front of them? How could you, or how would you approach working with someone like me when it comes to the numbers?
Sure. So an easy example. So say you're based, say I meet you in Illinois. Illinois, we have a few services that are really simple. And one of them is like electric, gas, security called Vivint, which I have, which is awesome. And
Same
I know
here.
you told me you have it too, which is even
Hmm.
funnier. And then say DirecTV. So you have rentals. A partner of ours teaches this. She runs 700 rentals in Ohio, and she just included these four services and the rent. So her clients love it because then she actually charged an extra premium for just being more, I guess, creative and including all the utilities into the rent. Because the problem with renters is sometimes if they can't have the rent, they will dodge the guy or they won't pay the bill. So it's like you're doing some chasing around. So what she did was alleviate that, and she rolled all the services into the rent. So a question then is, so if you have an example, like say a gas bill is $50 in Illinois, electric is 100. What's your Vivint on your house? Like 80 bucks, 100 bucks?
Yeah, something like around there.
Okay, so 80 bucks, and say TV for DirecTV is 100. So that gives back every single month to the person who owns the rentals 27.50 a month every month, with that client paying the same bills, including the rent. So you just added five more or four more streams of revenue into your portfolio. Now, how many homes you like, what's a number you need that would help offset something like a grocery bill, like for a family of your family when everybody's around, like 400 bucks a month?
Yeah, I'll say actually, we're super, and I make sure we're super frugal and
Mhm.
try not to overdo it. Let's just go. Let's go with 300.
Sure. So if you're looking for 300 a month with those four services, if you had 12 homes that did those four services, you make 330 a month. In
Nice.
1 year, that's $3,900 extra. But then there's some other things you can do. But I tell business owners, I didn't save you 3,300. I just made you that because you're still working for the groceries.
Mm-hmm.
So every month you just made an extra 330 that can go somewhere else. An investment property,
Exactly.
retirement, whatever you want, a trip, something else, tuition. Kids are getting older, college is expensive. So it's all
So
about
many ways.
shifting it, the conversation.
Definitely. Now, I want to rewind, and I really want to just go right back over everything that we just went through again because it went over some people's head. So mention again, okay, we
Mhm.
got the X number of homes.
Mhm.
They're already going to be most likely paying for power for or want security,
Mhm.
gonna have their their
TV.
TV.
Mhm.
Put all of that into what you're charging them in one
Yeah.
payment. So it's all getting paid anyways, and
Yeah.
then you're actually earning a commission. You're getting paid outside of the fact that they're paying their rent, you're
Mhm.
getting paid on top of that a
Yep.
commission from the things that are connected to their home.
Yes. Every month.
Alarm again. All right. So
Vivid.
I'm gonna have to turn these alarms off when I go live next time. So yeah, just run through that same scenario one more time. You got X
Sure.
number of people that have a home. They have all these services. You're getting paid. Like, just kind of give us those numbers one more time so people can it can actually set in for people.
Sure. So in Illinois, we have electric and gas. Not every state has both dual commodities. We do. And there's like 5 states who have dual, and a few other states have one or the other. So Illinois has both electric and gas. So if your gas bill in Illinois is 50 bucks, and this is just like hypothetical scenario as well, because everybody's different on volume for the bills, and this is based on supply. So if your gas bill is 50 bucks for supply, electric's 100 for supply, and you want a home automation system, just because you can, like a ring, but this is called Vivint, which is number one in North America. Don't take my word for it. I've got it. So does our live streamer here as well. And actually, the Utah Jazz, I believe their stadium is owned by Vivint. It's like a billion
Yeah,
dollar company.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so it ain't nothing small. And they're rated above ADT. And then say you need TV like DirecTV. So those four services, when you pay your bill for DirecTV $100, Vivint 80, electric is your supply is 100, gas is 50. It comes out to 27, 28 bucks a month residual that comes back to you when your tenants pay the same bill. But you take it to scale, like with 12 homes, that gives you an extra $330 a month residual at 20%. As for your portfolio, it adds more revenue. So your business looks healthier with those four services. But we also do commercial locations as well. So if you had a partner who owned a gas
Mm.
station and say their bill was, I don't know, say $1,500 a month for a gas station bill for a gas, and electric, say it's $2,000 a month, and you still need a Vivint, and they want a TV, those four same bills turn to $226 a month residual. At 12 locations, that's $3,100 a month residual. In 1 year, that's 37,000 and change. By just paying the same bill, being a property manager or a business owner with multiple locations, you can add more value into your portfolio. And investors love that because it literally costs me $25 a month to run my store. So I teach people how to do this. And you know it better than most. When you're in these spaces, people say you can make this money, this, that, and the other. Well, we don't show this to people until we know as a business owner, because a homeowner has a different conversation mindset. A business owner sees numbers because they're used to doing that. So when you show them their own numbers, asking them what's a car note or groceries to repay that number, and you show them out of their own network, they have 1,000 emails, 12 people doing those four services would give you X. It's much more of a realistic conversation because it's their numbers, it's their information. And the other part that's interesting is because those four services for business owners on here, you'll understand this a little bit better. Any way you can bring more revenue into your business makes your business healthier on the books by the bank.
Hmm.
That's the 100% truth. So with those four services, if you have each one billing at $262 a month times 12 locations, that's extra revenue generated combined of $44,000 a month in extra revenue for the 12 locations per month. So in 1 year, you just made that business owner value wise an extra $500,000 of revenue on the books. So you could take that to the bank literally after about a year or two, if not, just showing the numbers of progression, and your business is healthier. So you can do it like basically an ELOC against your business. And you have more options of credit expansion, growth, retirement, whatever you want. But it also gives you a way to get out. So if you needed $3,000 extra to leave your business in this coming year, because you have money set aside, 12 homes would give you the extra 3,000 to be okay outside of what you've already put away. So it really speaks to different levels of conversations because it's based on their information. And the other thing is it shows you have an upfront bonus what you can make. There's 12 homes times, I'm bad with simple math stuff. So 12 times 4 is 48 bills between the 12 locations. It spits out what the bonus would be. It'd be $3,200 in a upfront bonus. If you had 12 people who said yes to support the cause of retirement, your kids' tuition, wanting to walk away. So there's a lot of different ways you can interpret information, but numbers don't lie. That's why when we developed this like 5 months ago, it's really showing business owners what they're sitting on. Because imagine if you had 10,000 emails. You've got how many people following you? 4,000?
Yeah, almost 5.
Yeah. So even if it just depends on what you want to do, because people have networks. So all you do is network. But we show it to business owners in this manner because it has them really look at what they are sitting on, and it shows their numbers because every business owner is used to working at like spreadsheets. That's what you see all day long. So when you see your own numbers and how it can work for you to become a better investment, you just are in a better position. So if you can network the right way, a lot of companies sometimes say you need 1,000 people to do what you want to do. You really don't. I asked a partner last year, no, 2 years ago, sorry. I sold windows to her. And I was like, my sales are kind of slow. It's a weird year. Would you do me a favor and help me out? It's what we ask people to do. It's a favor because it's like a Girl Scout cookie. Why do you buy Girl Scout cookies in front of the store versus cookies in the store?
You got that personable interaction.
Yeah. And you support the troop. So
Hmm.
we teach people to be like, connect these things to something deeper than just a bill. So you connect it to the conversation of I'm trying to help else to feed kids. My goal is this. I want to retire my parents. So you can do all this stuff. And they say, that makes sense. I'll do that. My client who builds value with the relationships said, it's not for me. I'm like, that's fine. But she's like, I'll help you out. What do you need? I'm like, I still do this. And she's like, okay, cool. I'm like, what do you do? She's like, well, you knew me 6 years ago and when I ran 10 daycares. Ever since then, they promoted me to the vice president of North America. I run 57.
Wow.
She connected me with the accountant and they gave me all the bills for energy. So I've been paid on 5 states, 57 daycares for asking for a favor, of humbling the question of I'm not in the best spot right now, but I want to be better. And they said yes, and it's paying anyways. So, and that was before the spreadsheet. That was just asking for a favor. If I'd have showed her the spreadsheet, she probably wouldn't have given that to me. She probably, I'm going to do it myself. But like, so it's just coming from the point of being you, understanding what the person needs, showing them how you can actually benefit them, bringing value. And if it's something you can't do, don't sell what you can't do. That's the worst way to burn every bridge in your future.
Hmm.
Just be you. But like numbers are interesting, and you know you're getting older when you get excited about spreadsheets. That's what I've been telling people because it's like, oh, that's hilarious because AARP is coming for me now. But when you look at numbers in that light, it changes the goal of what you have to aim for. Because I know my numbers, but now with that sheet, I can really scale it and find the right characteristics of people in networking groups and show them, be like, it might not be for you, but if it is, here's what you could do. Here's what I can help you do. And I help develop people. So it's a win-win. And if they don't want to do it, that's fine. But the banker even asked, what would be the risk of losing a client here? I'm like, there's really no risk because you have to pay this forever. So if you make a business owner more revenue and more money, his response is like, then why would the business owner quit? They wouldn't. That's the thing. So if you have the right leadership and you have the right teaching, which is always key in anything you do, doesn't matter what it is, you will be successful, but you just have to figure out the lanes you want to go into. And if you can humble and weather the storms, but know that you're making a difference. Like we fed last year, the team fed 1,900 kids through the charity because every month we pay a bill, you feed a kid. And that was just on energy accounts, 1,900. And I got other accounts too. So it's just working the goal backwards, but making sure you align with whatever you want to do. That's
Hmm.
the thing. You can't, they always say there's a saying like, you can fake it till you make it, and that's fine. But you have to understand, like, when somebody asks you those questions of how it's working, you also have to tell them the honest truth. Like, it's working. It's still hard, but it's not as hard as it was last year. It's getting better. That's the goal, to keep getting better. As what's his face? The motivational speaker says, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes improvement.
Hmm.
That's what it is. Keep practicing on your craft and always be improving.
Yeah, and man, man, I appreciate all of this information, and you got my head, um, you got me scratching my head, because I have a, and we mentioned and we spoke to it, whenever we were on the phone, but we'll have another conversation, around it, just the commercial
Mhm.
property that I'm currently connected with. And I didn't even mention the subdivision that we're looking to develop. So, definitely some conversations to be had. But just to kind of close us out, and this is for anybody who has, a home based business, any type of business where you need to interact and engage with people, sell your services to people, which is almost everything. You need to, for one, be yourself. Be
Mhm.
yourself. Don't go out trying to be a cookie cutter, representation of somebody else. Be your genuine self. Discover that person's needs. Don't say, "Oh, this is for everybody. I can work." No, be specific. Be picky. They say don't prejudge. Yes, prejudge, judge, but ask the question so that you can serve a need, and then continue that communication, continue that relationship until you show that individual the value of what you have to offer and what it will bring to them, and ultimately just keeping that relationship alive. And business is going to continue to grow, but as Nolan mentioned, like, just be real about it. Don't tell people this is easy, you're going to be a millionaire next year, um, you're going to be able to retire your whole family and buy the car and the house. Stop with all this foolishness. Like, just be real and understand that in anything in life, it takes time to
Mhm.
really get to another level. But in certain areas, you have more control over the pace of
Mhm.
escalating, of increasing, of growing. Whereas in some spaces where you don't have as much control, you're at the mercy of them saying, "Well, we'll promote you when we see fit." So, just something to take in mind. Any closing words before we leave, Nolan, on some things that you want to make sure people know, how to reach out to you, some of the things that, you currently have going on as far as special offers.
Mhm.
What are some things you want to lead the people with?
Yeah, just feel free to follow me on Facebook and stuff like that. And I'm always gonna be growing. So I know my number that I'm gonna aim for this year. I'm always helping people try to find their numbers or at least have a conversation to find their number. And the other part that's really, really important is you have to know, and you touch on this from the stuff I've seen, we've talked, you have to know the person you're talking to personality type. If
Hmm.
you don't have that understanding, it's just learning, which is fine. But you can't talk to a person who's totally money motivated about a charity. You can't talk to
Right.
a person who's wants to help people about money. It doesn't correlate. They don't get it. So there's part of the process where we have like people who jump on to help us who are in those same spaces so they can identify with how it makes sense for that person who's in that same space. They like the information and then they're like, I'm very curious now about how to do it because I relate to him. I like the presenter and this person's in my industry. When you
Hmm.
can tie those three facts together, the person has more confidence in themselves. And like you explained, meeting them where they are at with their needs. A lot of business owners don't want to have that conversation because they feel if they're not meeting their what society thinks their success rate should be, then they think they're failing. That's a bad thought. You should always remember that you provide a service, you provide value, and you want to give back to your community. If you can do those and keep the lights on and the food and the fridge and everybody's pretty healthy, you're doing really well. So always remember that about yourself that you are doing well and it's a process, but you have to enjoy the hardest thing is the process. You have to enjoy that part. If you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. It's hard, but the process is a big part. You got to enjoy the process.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate that, man. I've got, and let me write this down because I am horrible with trying to remember everything that jumps into my mind. Let me write this. Yeah. I appreciate it, man. There's so much value that you were able to share. I know you and I, we're going to be having many more conversations. And,
Yeah.
as I mentioned to you before, um, when it comes to people bringing opportunities to me, I get every single day someone pitching something to me. And oftentimes it's very transactional. If I don't bite right then and there,
Mhm.
that relationship fizzles, or they just go ghost for a while. And the only time I hear from them again is when they're trying to pitch it again. Whereas whenever a true, genuine relationship, a true, genuine connection is made, I'm so much more apt to go into business with that individual, aside from other individuals that just want to make the quick sell. And then obviously the competence. So, when you're looking to put the go into business, look at their level of competence. Don't just listen to what they say. Here, look at this person's video. Go to listen to this person present. No, what can the person in front of you tell you? What can they break down for you based off of your scenario? If they can't break it down, what makes you think that the next person is going to break it down or even care about you enough to plug your situation into the category?
Yeah.
So, off that note, that's a wrap for today. I appreciate you again. We are gonna go ahead and close out. I'm gonna put you backstage, and I'll come back and close out with you afterwards. Thank you again, and guys, make sure that you reach out to Nolan, and we'll be back here. Actually, we have another session in about an hour or a little less. This is going to be an action-packed day. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop you backstage, Nolan, and then we'll bring you back once we close out the show.
Cool.
All right. All right, guys. So that was another one in the books. So I didn't really tell people, or I haven't introduced these lives as is, but I started this live series under the title of Legacy Dialogues. To whereas I'm having dialogues with individuals about different subjects that can help leave a legacy for your family. So on that note, make sure that you reach out to myself to make the connection with the individuals that you've seen on my streams. Reach out to them directly if you feel so. But we'll be back, like I mentioned, here in about an hour. You'll see some more content on my social media here shortly regarding the next session. But yeah, another in the books. Guys, anything that you need, please don't hesitate to reach out. If I don't have an answer for you, I'm pretty sure I can connect you to someone that has that answer. And off that note, we're out. See you guys shortly. And yeah, Thursday. Go out and have a great one in case I don't see you in a bit. Take care.